Boilers abroad in Siena in the summer of 2016. Marissa, Tori, and I arrived a day before the rest of the group, and we stayed in Florence at a hotel. That night we tried our first Italian meal of pizza, wine, bruschetta, mozzarella, and bread with tiramisu and coffee. This you can see in the top two and bottom left pictures. It was neat to see how different hotels can be in other countries as well. Our elevator barely fit the three of us, as shown in the bottom right. We all agreed that coming in a night earlier than the rest was generally beneficial to our health. We felt so much better the next day. The next morning the rest of the group arrived in Florence. Everyone was really tired and seemed to find places to nap while waiting for the others. It was really fun to catch the others sleeping in the strangest ways. You could see that Cameron used his suitcase while Tori and Caroline stuck with the floor. When we found out that Valente's flight was delayed, we decided to be true Americans and play a rowdy game of intense cards as a group. Or we would find something else to do, like read or look through the shops. Once everyone arrived at the airport, we had to collectively put our things on the bus and head on our hour-long ride to Siena. When we arrived in Siena, the IES staff split us into groups by apartment to go settle in. My apartment included Anna, Alexis, Yushang, and I. We lived in Via del Comune apartment number 15 on a steep hill, but it was still beautiful. After settling into our apartment, we met up with the rest of our group in the Piazza del Campo to go on a walking tour of Siena. My apartment mates and I showed up a bit early to sit in the Campo and watch the city move. The evening ended in a nice four-course meal with the whole group from Purdue University and Martina from IES. Cameron and Valente were really excited about trying the many courses. This was our first Italian dinner as a group, and it was superb. The next day, Thursday, was a diverse day. We spent the morning in class at the IES Center, then broke for lunch, which isn't pictured. I didn't want to bore you with just class. After our lunch break, we got the privilege to hear from the principal and some teachers from Pascoli Elementary School. You can see a picture of the majority of the Purdue group in front of the entrance to the elementary school, as well as a photo we took with the principal. This meeting was really enlightening because we got to really hear how their system worked. It was during this meeting that I was able to pinpoint some major differences between our elementary school system and the Italian elementary school. The most interesting thing I gathered from her explanations was that of accommodations to adopted children and immigrant students. They have special programs to help these students assimilate within the school as best as possible. That was interesting to me because we don't see a lot of adopted or immigrant situations from my home schools. After our visit with the principal, we were free to do as we pleased for the rest of the day. As a collective, we decided that we needed and wanted to explore the city of Siena, but not after a healthy dinner of pizza and pop. Margherita pizza in the top left corner, as I have found out, merely means cheese pizza in Italy. This is similar to what we call margherita pizza, but at the same time very different. After dinner we proceeded to do a little exploring. We just wanted to walk around, and we found so many contrada fountains, too many to put on this slide. The door you see is one of the many, many beautiful doors around the beautiful city of Siena. It is really neat to see how different they all look and to think about how long they might have been there. As you can see by the landscape picture, the door was not the only beautiful thing we saw that evening. The view was absolutely breathtaking. That first Friday in Siena, we went back to Pascoli Elementary School to actually sit in the classrooms. Upon arrival, we got split into small groups to be put in classrooms. I was sorted into a group with Cameron and Savannah, and we were placed in a third grade classroom. In this room, there were two students that spoke English, while the teacher did not. The students were Lorenzo from Boston and Marine from Romania. They served as our main translators for the afternoon. We were able to witness an Italian lesson, a math lesson, and an art lesson. After doing 2 hours of Italian, they switched teachers, and that teacher taught for the rest of the time we were there. This was really different from the way elementary is run in the United States. This picture is here because the class gave us apples for joining them and participating in the class for the day. This made us extremely happy for the old give your teacher an apple ideal. These were our first teacher apples. That same Friday after lunch and our school visit, we were given a beautiful tour of the city, its history, and the cathedral. First, the tour guide told us all about the background of the Palio, Siena, the Contradas, and old legends. I must say that all of it was amazing and enlightening, but the cathedral was downright the best. The face of the cathedral on the left is ornate and beautiful with amazing architecture. The inside was equally as beautiful. Although, my favorite part of the cathedral was the old, untouched frescoes in a certain room. This was outstanding to me, the fact that these paintings were never replicated, destroyed, or taken down. These were the original paintings, paintings that were centuries upon centuries upon centuries old. As for the floor, it looks original and I liked it, so I included a picture of me stepping on it. That same night, we got the pleasure of attending a Contrada dinner with the she-wolves. This was an awesome experience to see how a Contrada dinner takes place and how much these Contradas are a community. It was so wonderful to see people come in and be greeted with hugs, kisses, and warm, happy greetings. It reminded me of home and family and helped me fulfill a goal of inclusion in the community. After the dinner, there was live music. This was probably one of the most fun nights I had so far on that trip. The band played very American songs with Italian words. One of the artists was Johnny Cash. Our first weekend was spent traveling. Early Saturday morning, we left my apartment and headed off to the train station. From there, we were able to attempt our first try on traveling, and I must say that it went pretty well. The photo in the middle is of all of us before we got onto the train for the first time. We made it to Cinque Terre safely and began to see the wonders of the coast. I did not expect these towns to be as touristy as they were, but it was all enjoyable. Our first stop was Monterosso, which was the farthest away. Then after an accident with the trains, we ended up starting from the beginning and working our way back to Monterosso. The rest of the pictures are from that day. You can see the beautiful view, clear water, and myself, I guess. On Monday we were back in the schools. On this day we started out in the morning in Mattioli Middle School. This day was quite interesting. I was able to sit in and participate in 4 different classrooms: math, music, PE, and art. I was not able to do much in math and art, but I actually got to participate in PE and music. The teachers made it very clear that we were allowed to and able to join the class. In PE, I was able to play volleyball with a group of girls, and the gym is pictured because it was the most included I felt at the schools at that point. It was also really neat to see that every classroom has a smart board in it, and they actually used it a lot. That same Monday after lunch we attended Martini Elementary School. It was slightly awkward upon arrival because they didn't know we were coming. The administration spoke little English, but somehow we were split into 2 groups, and my group got to go play with the students in the garden for recess. In that picture, all of the students are introducing themselves to me in the exact same fashion. Hello, my name is blank. I am good. How are you? After introductions, they insisted on teaching us a game, The Fish and the Fishers. It was a rather fun game, and they did not want us to stop. After that, you'll see the classroom that we spent an hour or so in. The students were really excited about showing us the play they were putting on for class, Pinocchio. That was all we were able to do, and I loved every second of it. That next Wednesday, we went back to Pascoli Elementary School, but this time we were split into different groups and put into different classrooms. This time I was in a group with just Savannah and myself in a 5th grade classroom. We were able to watch the students participate for their musical project and 2 other classes. There was even a brief period of time where we had no idea what was going on. The students were very eager to speak with us and insisted that we tell them our favorite things. Instead of showing the same pictures, I chose this picture of Marissa, Valente, and I as we happened to match for the visit. Off to Rome we went. On Thursday the group took the train to Rome. Upon arrival we had just enough time to sit and eat lunch, put our things in our room, and head off to the ancient ruins and the Colosseum. It was really neat to be surrounded by BC dated ruins and temples. I highly enjoyed touching everything our guide talked about and to see the history of Rome and life come to life in front of me. Not only was it breathtaking, but it was super duper cool. I enjoyed touching everything I could get my hands on. The Colosseum was really amazing. You grow up hearing about the Colosseum or knowing that it exists, and I was finally able to see it. Although I was anticipating it to be much bigger, it was still magnificent in size and architecture. We made sure to get our pictures and represent Purdue at this world wonder. On our second day in Rome, we basically had a free day to ourselves after the Montessori school visit. First, the Montessori school was very interesting. My favorite part was to be able to see a woman that studied under Miss Montessori in the first Montessori school. Then she went and founded that very Montessori school we visited. It was amazing to hear about. After our visit, a small group of us traveled to the Basilica San Paolo. I didn't know what to expect, but this basilica was amazing. The inside was very ornate and beautiful. The frescoes on the wall were absolutely amazing, and the depictions of Christ and his saints and disciples were outstanding. This was definitely the highlight of my day. On our last and final day in Rome, we spent it in the Vatican. I previously did not know much about the Vatican, but I did know that it was where the Pope lives. It was neat to see the history of the Vatican and how involved the popes were in the world along with the Church. Their ideals on preservation of art and history made me really happy. We had one day in between traveling trips. We used this day to explore the last of things we wanted to see. The search began when we wanted to find the very first gelato place that Veronica said was the best in Siena. Along the way we got really far out and decided to find a contrada fountain or two. Eventually we found the gelato place and took a picture in front of it. Later that night we were able to witness the picking for the Palio in July. This was an event to behold. I have never seen anything quite like it. It made me want to come back for the race. Quite a few of us were even repping our contradas for this event. After a long ride on a couple trains and some intense card games later, we made it to Venice. First on our list was food. We walked around and found a place to eat before putting our stuff in our rooms. After all of what had it, out of all of that, we headed out on our first adventure, the Doge's Palace. The Doge was essentially the president of Venice back in the day. It was a beautiful ornate palace with walls and ceilings covered in allegories. After the tour we were free for the day. We wandered around and split for dinner in the evening. Anna, Cameron, Emily, and I went off in the direction of the ocean to watch the sunset. This was the perfect place to just sit and reflect about the trip and be still for 30 minutes. The view was a de-stressor and a sight to be seen. The next day we were able to spend it all exploring. Emily, Tori, and her family and I were able to walk around Venice. I was able to take some really cool pictures and see Venice in the morning and afternoon. We stopped for lunch and then kept exploring. Sooner or later we had to leave though. On the ride home from the train, I was able to catch various people sleeping. It was really fun to take photos of them as I knew they would get a kick out of it later. There's so much more that I could have shared with you because we really did so much more than it looks like. I was able to see some of the main highlights of Italy in about 4 days total and experience the trip of a lifetime in 2 weeks. The amount of memories I have made and friends that I've gained could take up hours of your time. Thank you for accompanying us on this trip, and thanks to Purdue University for allowing this kind of opportunity. Boiler up.